We're really getting serious here, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Third podcast, and we're just like, we need more views. The whole point is for us to connect with the small business community. I want to be talking to small businesses and entrepreneurs about like what they need to do in their journey. I think hashtags make a difference because I realized that the teaser from last week, this is good. If the topic for today, if you want to grow, use hashtags. I'm not a social media, guru, but I noticed from my own content when we use the hashtags specific to like AI, build with AI, etc., the engagement I got from non-followers was higher than I've ever seen before. So that was, and I checked your account as well, and they weren't your friends. So it was more organic. Yeah. So that was really interesting because I'm like, who are these random people liking my story?
I think we're doing well organically. The bakery, what's it called?
Nord
Bakery.
She's up the ante. She is growing organically. Product-led growth.
Yeah. And two, because people love so much. Like I saw you post about her.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and I got it. I loved it. Next time I went to go see my friends, I bought it, took it to them, and so on.
And I think, so let's use this as our introduction because it's one that I've been talking about for ages. I think, when you look at what comes after you build anything, I'm not even talking about an app or a website here. I'm talking about what is the journey for growth. It is about testing in your own sphere of influence and capabilities and listening to the signals that you get from that. So I think if we look at Nord Micro Bakery, started as something very, very community. I mean, I remember when she first launched, it was just sourdough bread and a couple of other things, the Viking loaf to start off with, and then she's testing. So it is, when we look at how product-led growth, we talk about it in a very tech sense. But I think here we're seeing it with a physical product and an expansion. If you look at restaurants, they do have this seasonal menu, they do change. And you also have a dependency on what is available, whether you can get stock, whether your, facilities are working. In this case, the oven and what she's got capabilities at home. But she's testing different recipes. The cinnamon rolls came out of that. The cardamom rolls came out of that. And then she's iterated on top of that the oat cookies now. And when you also look at the content she's doing, did you see the other day, there was a little bit of community collaboration. So she collaborated with the Tomato Man, who also I'm tagging because they're incredible tomatoes. So Nord Bakery, and it's a true community story. So you see how the power of our neighborhood community, so that's its own WhatsApp group. That's how I discovered her. It's this slow domino effect of saying, hey, I see you. And also we match because a tomato can go on a piece of bread very, very nicely with some butter and maybe a poached egg or something. And this is how we're going to collaborate. And so these slow activations in terms of, hey, I'm going to try this type of content. I'm going to lean into the community because it is word of mouth. And I think people are more inclined to share when it is a small business because they know that it's word of mouth growth. But, she's got her brand, she's got her t-shirt, and the whole family is wearing the t-shirts and out and about on the street. And for her, the growth is within Dubai, it's within this community and a little bit, maybe a broader radius, and that will continue to grow.
But I think what people don't know is that the builder can actually help them do some of the marketing stuff.
It can. And I mean, it's about being smart on how to leverage that. Again, if we go back to what a builder is as opposed to a static website, it is something that allows you to grow as you go. So when you see, let's say you integrate your Instagram page, when you have a product catalog and you're working with influencers, you see a lot of businesses today, they have the Instagram feed running across the bottom because what you're actually tapping into is product marketing and photography and positioning, or a product catalog that you don't actually have to shoot yourself. So when you tap into your Instagram feed and you have that collection of different, customers wearing your garments or whatever it is, holding the glassware or eating.
If you and I decide to start a t-shirt brand where we have designs and we're making them and we create a website with Airo Builder, what would you do next?
Okay, so I actually have a friend. So I've got a really close friend, Aylam Selamlash. She has been, she's, we've been talking. She loves doing this creative stuff. And she's saying, I want to launch a t-shirt brand. And you'd be surprised at the number of cool t-shirt brands that exist. Have you seen? I mean, you go to these random places and they've got, I can name probably 4 or 5. They're all kind of Turkish brands and then a couple here. but you need to start because it's visual. How are you going to get people to wear it? You need people to wear it. You need people to create you content because it's going back to the point of you build something. What is the next step? You need people to see you.
Yeah.
And this is the same with us. I mean, when Airo AI Builder started, it's all good and well to have the product, but if nobody's in the product, there's a funnel that you need to make work. And it's the same as, this is why real estate, I'm going to use this analogy like bricks and mortar. When I started my career, I started in retail. I started at this brand called Rod and Gun. It was a New Zealand brand. It was beautiful. And it was quite premium. We always used to position it against like the Ralph Lauren's and that kind of segment. It was a menswear brand. Still exists. And when they were expanding into Australia, the real estate that was chosen was where we would get decent footfall, but also where we would have the type of clientele that was able to afford the price point. So, and you're going to pay rent accordingly. And so in that construct, when you think about it, yes, you've got the shop front, that is your site, that is your builder. But at the same time, you need to understand that there is a cost to getting traffic in. Now, the same thing applies. We would get people that were super happy with the brand. And this was years and years ago. So the power of social was not what it used to be. That was, I think, I can't remember when I started using Instagram, but it was around that time. I can vaguely remember my first posts, and I think that was when it came up. So it wasn't, the website was our core piece of online real estate. But the rent there, in my mind, is the equivalent of paid traffic. And then you have people coming in, you have the word of mouth generated by super, super happy shoppers. And we would have catalogs, we would have the newsletter that goes out to the existing clientele. And so that is where you start to look at the motion. And we would have certain customers that would come back on a monthly basis, be like, okay, we're going into winter, I need to upgrade my wardrobe. And we had perks. So we had, if you spent $800 or more, you became a VIP for life. So you would get 10% on all your, I think 10% discount on all your purchases. Incredible that I still remember this. And then, we would have specific offers and promos. So when it was coming up to Father's Day, we'd have something specific, or we maybe had, buy 2 shirts for this much, or, buy this many and then you'll get 20% off an accessory. So you look at how you want people to spend and how that's going to positively impact your targets. And so the makeup of marketing is location, where you're seen and who you're seen by. It is price, it is offers, and then it is like where you're showing up outside of that in terms of your content and marketing ecosystem, and then happy customers. If you have happy customers, they're going to come back and they're going to say positive things about you. And you can turn negative reviews into positive ones by just actually listening to them and going, I'm really sorry to hear that. Let us exchange that for something that's going to be more appropriate for you.
I think about this because we use this analogy, which is like the funnel, like,
yes,
awareness, consideration, conversion, and then retention. And I heard someone explain this in a very like fun way for like small businesses, which is like, think about someone buying your product as if you are going to marry someone. So the first step is you see them.
Yeah.
They see you.
Yeah.
Whether it's like in an elevator or I don't know.
This has gotten very exciting all of a sudden. I'm waiting in anticipation.
And you see a picture of them or you see them in real life. So you're aware of their existence.
Yeah.
And then next step is like, hi.
Who are you?
We work together in the same office building. My name is X. You're like,
Yeah.
my name is Y. Nice to meet you. So it's like you're considering getting them to know you more.
Yeah.
Or like
Okay.
talking them,
Yeah.
bettering it.
Yeah.
And then next step is like asking them out, which is like, hey, would you like to go out with me on a date? And then they say,
try it on. Let me
and then they say
decide.
yes. Hopefully they say yes. And you guys go out and then you propose, guys get engaged.
I'm gonna break this model, because to go from consideration, so you're trying it on and you're looking at how it fits together. There's a payment, there's a transaction that goes in there. And maybe this is true. I mean, not everyone rushes into marriage head over heels. Some people are more rational. There's an assessment to say, is this person worth my value? here we're not talking about, but there is some kind of transaction to say, is this worth my time, money? Time is money. So
Yes.
is this person worth my investment? And I think that's for me, that's the part that's missing in the analogy, because you have to make sure the price and the offer is enough you deliver. Actually, let me rephrase that. You have to deliver enough value to the customer to ensure that they are willing to engage in a transaction, whatever the monetary or whatever the currency is. In this case, is it time? Is it years? Is it, to then say, yes, this is what I want to take home.
Yeah. And I think the person that was going through this funnel, he was saying that when it's like conversion time, you can always use offers. And he was like,
Yeah,
10% off of your first purchase or something like
for
that
sure.
to reel them in and get them to try it on. Retention is where you're like, you have a loyalty program.
Yeah.
Just like what you were
Yes. Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
and like keeping them, especially if you have so I feel like with products also, there are two types of products. There are subscription products
Hmm.
where people have to pay you every month or every year
Yeah.
to keep that product, or there's like a one-time thing. I remember a girl was talking to me and she's like, I sell, those like wedding, what is it called? Like tiara.
Tiaras. Yeah.
And this is something that you buy once. Like how many, I mean, I hope you only get married once and you just buy it.
I mean, listen, you may have a daughter and you can give her a little tiara to.
But
It's same with a wedding dress, though.
yeah,
It's not
but you're
even.
not gonna buy it
No,
another time.
I still got my wedding dress sitting in the cupboard.
Mine is at my mom's house. Going back to the
Yeah.
analogy and what, like, one, think about what kind of product are you selling? Is it a
Hmm.
subscription? Is it a one-time product? And with that girl that was selling the wedding tiaras, I was like, you need to be in places where brides are. So
Yeah.
think of makeup artists, like places that sell wedding gowns. I don't know, like hairdressers that would do like
Yeah.
hairs
Yeah.
for brides,
Yeah.
and so on. And you would strike a deal with them to be like, hey, like I would give you 10 or 25% revenue share. So there's also like ways to go about like marketing yourself, yes, within your website, but also like looking outside and see how can you like strike partnerships within your small ecosystem.
It is. And I think so here, let's just take a step back and try to put it into a framework that people can relate to. So I think first and foremost, how do we view what is the value of the app, the app or the website in your own business's ecosystem? That's number one. In my mind, it is the shop front that you have online at a very basic foundational level. It could be also your sales channel if you're an e-commerce business, but I think the foundation is today we spend as humans on average somewhere between 3 to 4 hours, even higher, on online on a daily basis, whether it's on our phone, but part of that is discovery, where we go and get information is largely online. We consume information and content from our friends, our immediate circle. We consume it from brands. This is why the digital advertising industry is, what it is today. So you have to be online. I think in today's day and age, you need to have some kind of online presence. And so in my mind, it is an owned online presence. The benefit is when you have your own website plus a domain name, which I think is really important because it shows that this is a real legitimate business. It's the equivalent of a mobile phone number. If you want someone to find you online, you have your domain name. That's effectively, instead of calling you, they can find you online. And that is the center of it. Then we can start talking about, okay, what kind of business are you and where do you need to be? And then we can run through for different businesses what other go-to-market and marketing tactics that they can use. And that will bring, I think then the other part of the question is, what does that serve in terms of your online presence, in terms of the traffic to your site? Because it's a loop that you're trying to generate. So you've got one stream where you can have online sales, but you've got another stream where people will come to you for information, validate that you're a genuine business, check your product catalog or go to your social media pages and say, okay, this is who I want to buy from. And to your point, it's about creating the network to be able to have people discover you.
And I think another very good example that we worked with is the hot chili, hot fling.
Yeah.
Because what I liked about what she's doing is that she is contacting not like mega influencers. She's just contacting people that she knows will appreciate her product. And she's like, try it out and post about it if you have a channel. And I loved it. Like I tried out the chili, loved it. I used it in a lot of like recipes and I was like,
I used it last week. So good.
And I was like, I want people to know about it.
Yeah.
So it's like organic. And now like people reached out to me and they were like, oh, how did you use it? How did this?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, it's just like again, the organic loop, word of mouth, where you get people to actually try your product out. And this is what we did with Airo AI Builder when we did the Ramadan campaign.
Hmm.
Same, we wanted people to give it a shot, give it a chance, try it out. And we were like, we're going to give it to you for free. You have 30 days, reach out to us, tell us what you want to build, and we'll help you build it. And from there, now we have advocates that actually come back to us.
Yeah. I mean, they like we are doing the exact same process. I think we're having the same conversations in terms of, okay, what are some creative ideas and how do we grow authentically? Because you want it to be a lasting relationship. You don't want it to be just trying to get traffic for the sake of traffic. You want it to be to people who can truly benefit from the product or service that you're offering. And I think, just looking at today, the build has become simple. It's arguably the least complex part of the whole process of getting online. I think it comes down to understanding who your audience truly is, who is your target customer, and how do they consume information today? How do they research about what they want to purchase and buy? So I'm going to use the tomato man as an example, just because I feel passionate about ripe and juicy tomatoes. But for a long time, there has been, I think if you ask anyone in Dubai, the tomatoes that you get from the supermarket are not flavorful. They're not. They're dry. They don't have this redness, that like juicy redness. You can cut them and just smell the tomato. And so with the situation here in the region, the supplier of restaurants, here's the difference. It went from B to B to B to C. So that's why the restaurant tomatoes taste better than the consumer tomatoes. He was previously supplying the restaurants. And then because the hospitality industry had a pause for a little while there, pivoted to consumers and community group. Again, my neighbors, what a blessed group we have. Somebody shared a post about these amazing tomatoes. I was like, I need in on that, and ordered the tomatoes. They truly are incredible. I mean, they are the tomatoes of my childhood. And I always think of my grandma, because she would say, he said, you mustn't put them in the fridge. You need to put them out. They're in the fridge now. Don't tell him. And my grandma would go to the market and spend 15 minutes picking out the ripest tomatoes, and she wouldn't put them in the fridge. She would keep them in the balcony at home. And so I was like, she knew her tomatoes. And so now he's got now a WhatsApp community channel to order. He's got a website that pushes all of the notifications and orders to the WhatsApp channel. He's got a LinkedIn payment system, and he's got the Instagram page. And so within the space of probably a month, pivoted his entire business model to the spark. And goes back, we can talk about the signal a little bit in terms of how you make the right decisions of what you prioritize.
Yeah.
Had taken that idea and gone, I see there's a demand here. I'm going to move in line with where the demand is. And yes, of course, there was a bit of back and forth. Is it right? The tomatoes, because they ship them here. So, they're coming from overseas. You order one day, is it going to come the next day or 2 days later? Yeah. But the customers are forgiving because the quality is really good. So there's a value exchange. But also, we all know the reality of the situation, and it's more of a, community feel here. So I think that for me is a really good recent example of how you pull together the different elements that make a business work, that make a business tick. And I can't comment on the level of success of, how he's driving. I just know from where I sit, it looks, I'm a customer and I buy them on a weekly basis. But it's also for me as his customer, it's legitimate. So I know that he exists because I've got word of mouth in the community. I'm not worried about any fraud or anything else. Website has all the products that are available. It's not complex, but you can then pay directly. So I can either pay with Apple Pay, or I can pay with, I think, Stripe or Payzine, or whatever the payment integration is. And then I get updates from WhatsApp. So I can contact him. I have my customer support, or I can contact through the community, or you've got the website. So you have all you need within that little ecosystem to be able to reach the business, understand what the business is offering. You have a little bit of marketing, but he's also reposting anything that I share, or, the community shares once they receive the tomatoes, and that continues to drive visibility. And that's all you need to get started.
And just great example. And what he was able to do was define, and I don't want it to sound like too marketing jargon, but like define the personality or the persona of who his customers are. And he was there where they are,
Yeah.
and just help them navigate like step by step,
Yeah.
in order to get like the full experience. I had a chat with a personal trainer, and he was like, "Oh, I have this website with this company, and then I have an app with this company, and I have this thing with this other company. I really, really struggle with connecting all the dots
Yes.
together,
Yeah.
and making sure that all those platforms speak together." He's like, "People come to my website, but I don't know how to take this lead and
And turn it into business. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like he said, like two main things that he struggles with is one, getting more leads, and two, converting those leads and nurturing them
Into
to become to convert.
So
Yeah.
should we take these two questions or
Yeah.
these two problems and try to dissect them now in
Yeah.
terms of how we approach them? So the first one is getting leads. I think we've talked about this quite extensively now in terms of how do you go and get leads. To summarize, what would be our top 5 in terms of, hey, this is what I think. And my first one is going to be, we talked previously about bad prompts and how it can eat credits. I think together with bad prompts, as you build your site to start off with, if you don't know who your customer is, you're going to get lost. So it goes back to what we discussed around planning and, knowing who you're targeting. It's always much, much harder to go catch all big because you're going to dilute and you're going to have to compete with a lot of different brands and a lot of noise. But if you know exactly who your customer is, and you can start small, you can say, this is my, especially if you're an existing business, you will already have data on who is your customer, on who is buying. You can take your customers today and have conversations with them. So I think that number one is understanding who is actually your target audience.
Yeah. And on target audience, there is a girl that pops up on my TikTok all the time. She has a small business where she makes those really, really intricate, beautiful designs for back charms. And like you can, it's like a charm, and you can put it in a bracelet, a necklace, on your bag. It's quite pricey.
Yeah.
She's on TikTok because she is trying to sell to the younger generation.
Yeah.
So she knows where she needs to be.
Exactly. You have to pick the channel.
Yeah. And then she's also doing this like founder-led videos that I find super interesting, because she's talking about, why are my charms expensive? What is the difference between gold-plated gold and like the other things that you would buy for, 10, 15.
Yeah.
And she talks through the details, and I'm like, wow,
I'm sold. You've convinced me.
this is art. And like I'm like, okay, now I want to be ready to buy from her. Maybe I'm waiting for an offer or something, I don't know. But this is how she's like kind of nurturing her audience and teaching them about the product from a founder perspective.
I love that.
Yeah. And so like persona and matching it to a channel where your customers are, knowing who your customer is, going to the channels where they are, speaking their language and showing them what they want. This is
It's critical. And then I think the next step is then taking that knowledge. It doesn't have to be in depth, but taking that knowledge and then using it in your initial build prompt for Airo AI Builder to say, let's use the example of this girl. I make bespoke, what do they call handbag charms. I'm not a Gen Z, clearly. And I design bespoke or custom handbag charms. I use the highest quality materials. My target audience is Gen Z. And so my primary awareness channel is TikTok. And you've already started to give it the direction of the look and the feel. And then you can layer it on top to say, these are my brand colors, upload your content if you already have it. But even if you're starting out very early, then you can even say, like, this is who I am, this is what I do. Design a site that you think is appropriate or suitable for this audience. So it gives you a canvas to start. If you think about the website as a blank canvas, you're starting with a few tracings already, a sketch. You're starting with a sketch versus having to start with a blank canvas and start painting.
So step 1, know your customer.
Mhm.
Step 2, be on the channel where your customer is, whether that's like WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram.
I think so. I'm going to pause here. WhatsApp, you can build a community, but I think that takes us into the direction of there is one to many in terms of marketing and communications. So, when you look at TikTok, yes, there's an engagement component. Yes, you can have a conversation or exchange, but you're also broadcasting to many. And that's the goal. You want to get, if we look at the awareness funnel, you want mass, you want, awareness, and you want that consideration. Then you want to have people actually buy a product, and then you have this retention curve. And so that's this ongoing engagement. And so when I in my mind, I separate that awareness layer from, and you can have awareness within communities. I mean, I'm basically contradicting what I said about Nord Bakery. But it's not a one to many. It's more of a gated area if you think about WhatsApp. And it's also a way for you to deliver on customer engagement and customer support or service within what you're offering. So for her tone of voice would be something that she would carry down to WhatsApp, I think. And this is my opinion. I mean, people don't have to agree with me, but that's how I would structure it, because I think the role it plays is a little bit different from just, blasting out content and at the frequency, because you want to have each channel play a role in your go-to-market ecosystem. You want it to be meaningful and you don't want it to lose its value.
Yeah, but I also feel like in the current world that we live in, content consumption is so high. And a lot of the time people are just worried about being in front of the camera or worried about like creating content, and they overthink it too much. Whereas like even looking at my TikTok, most of my TikToks that got the most engagement, and I'm not a serious TikToker by any means, were the ones that I just did on the fly.
Yeah.
I did not really overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like also understanding the algorithms. I feel like people should not overthink content or like like strive for like very quality content. Just like go out and my advice is do it.
Do it. And I think this is where you look at the cost of failure in the digital world is less. It's or next to nothing. You don't have to put spend behind it as you're trying things out, or you can put limited spend behind it if you're looking at digital advertising. I think the message here it goes back to data. When you have online channels, and we started this whole conversation talking about the difference between using hashtags or not using hashtags. I mean, we've noticed it in our own content. I know if I'm in a photo, either myself or, with my son, it gets more likes and views than not, versus some beautiful picturesque background that I've captured because I think it's gorgeous. And so I think if you go back on a weekly basis and just make it a routine part of tracking not just your sales, but tracking your marketing to say, okay, this week, let's say you've got a LinkedIn business page. And you're a B2B business. I'm using my husband's business as an example. They're a B2B business, so they don't have a lot of movement, but they still, on a weekly basis, we're looking at, okay, what is the traffic that's come to the page? How has that impacted where people are liking from? So for them, it's very much how many net new followers outside of our core geos are we getting? How much engagement are we getting outside of our own network? Has that led to any other project requests or, proposal requests that are coming in from outside of that? Because that's the indication of growth and net new business. So there are ways that you just need to match the dots to say, what does success look like for me? And then test it. And if it doesn't work, if you're not seeing the results that you think you wanted to get for that channel or for that activity, then stop and try something else. But experimenting is all part of the journey of growth, I think.
Yeah. I think the last thing on this point is just partnerships as a channel. And partnerships here doesn't mean that you have to have like an MOU signature or something big. Just think of it as you going and finding another small business and working together, or you going and finding where your audience would potentially be and try to be there for them. So think about those little partnerships that you can strike all around you, because it's always nicer when you have a community together, working together on that. One last thing about leads. What's your take on ads?
I think it's the point on partnerships is that's a form of advertising in itself. So I think we can think about, let's ground it in our checklist in terms of you've built your site with Airo AI Builder, you've connected your domain, so you fully own your presence. You've linked it to your core marketing, digital marketing platforms or accounts. So whether this is Instagram, to your point, but the same challenge exists in terms of if you have 500 followers today, you're not going to all of a sudden get 5,000 by just linking your Instagram page to your website because the same traffic funnels through. So you have to assess how you are going to get the most value, the most exposure based on where your audience is. And the traditional way of going and, getting traffic through, whether it's search advertising, whether it's, social media advertising, that can work. And I think it depends on what industry you're active in. I think, the girl that we're talking about, the wedding, the bridal brand, you could argue how much value is she going to get out of doing search advertising, for example, versus boosting the content and the posts on social media, because hers is a visual medium. She is going to get more word of mouth by having videos and having influencers and her own customers sharing the content because they're going to see how it works in action. And then the partnership angle there is another form, because you don't necessarily have to pay and then get your ads shown. When you are giving a commission or a revenue share with any partner that you have, that is a form of advertising that you're paying for. So there, the role is very different. But what you're guaranteeing is, I know that these different industries. So if I think of my own wedding, I had a wonderful makeup and hair artist. I arranged it all from overseas, so I had to find it all online. So I really know who is where, and I probably had the biggest challenge with the DJ because South Australia does not have a lot of DJs. But even from the decoration at the venue, I was able to find everything online. I scanned their websites, I scanned the social media, I scanned all the examples of how I wanted the lighting to work, the decorations, and it was very minimalist. But if I had searched Google for it, I would not have been able to have the aesthetic that I wanted versus having all the visuals available, because I was able to say, these 3 pictures are the inspiration for what I want. Here is the venue. Go and tell me what is going to suit it. And I think that is where, when you have that ecosystem that you've built of suppliers and you can say, hey, I'm going to give you 10% commission on everything, then you feed the ecosystem. So you're all partners. You will continue to give work to each other, but you're getting qualified traffic. And if you have a happy bride, she is going to tell all her friends who are probably going to get married in the next 2 to 3 years, because that's how things work, that, hey, I got all my stuff from here. And I think that is understanding how you make your marketing work for you and where the dollars are going to give you the most value in terms of qualified traffic, in terms of qualified customers to your site and to your business.
Agreed. I did the same thing for my wedding. I planned it abroad, and I had a very, very good wedding planner, and she even made those giveaways for all my guests without me asking. Yeah. And guess what? A couple of months later, I had a friend getting married in the same city, and I was like, hey, I have the best wedding planner for you. And her wedding was probably 10 times bigger than mine. And my wedding planner got it because I recommended her, because I had such a good experience with me. So I think don't underestimate giving your
happy customer is worth a happy customer is worth how many new customers. For the more commercially precise framing from Bain and Harvard Business School, Cursor knows me very well. I like to have my sources included. Is that a 5% increase in customer retention increases profits by 25% to 95%, depending on the industry. So this is all you need to know. But effectively, 2 things are key. You have a pool of existing customers that have these, and what does an existing customer mean in this framework? It means a customer that has previously transacted with you and is happy, and so is more likely to recommend you or come back. And so you retain them by keeping them happy. And if you have an unhappy customer, you do whatever you can to turn that unhappy customer into a happy customer by solving their problem. In terms of how you grow your business and how you nurture your customers is critical. It is really critical.
I want to end this with one last thing, because I know that our teams have been working really, really hard on this feature, which is SEO and discoverability.
Yes.
When you create a website and people look for you online. They go to Google, they go to, I don't know, any search engine, and they're looking, I want to find this around me, or where can I find this? And their SEO plays a role in having your website or your business show up in the first page,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
first few
yeah.
pages. And I just want to say, one, it's a slow burn. So
It's a
don't
major
expect
slow burn.
your business to show up in the first page like the minute you like publish your website.
Unless you're super niche.
Yeah.
Then run, go. Use all the keywords.
And then two, and maybe we can have another episode
I
just
think we should.
dedicated to,
Yeah.
but also our team has been working very, very hard to have all the websites optimized from day one. You don't have to go do it, or have to do additional stuff. But yeah, we're going to be launching this pretty soon to have all the websites
What I would
created.
love to do, I think for this specifically, so first thing, call to action for everyone who's watching these wonderful podcasts that we're doing. What are the topics that would help you grow your business when it comes to online, digital marketing, digital growth? What would be helpful for us to talk about in terms of making your site, your app more powerful for you? I think that's number one. And specifically on the topic of SEO, as we launch the new feature, what I would like us to take a look at is how the businesses are starting and what is the traffic trajectory and what are some of the key things to layer in on top of that. So while Airo AI Builder will take care of the technical part of it, which has been a challenge for a lot of businesses, what are the other considerations that can layer on top of it, which links to what we've talked today about what comes after, because it's a consistent loop. You have to be consistent, and then give some tips based on that. I think I would love to see us discuss that.
And maybe the next episode we should talk about, now you have those leads coming, whether it's to social media, to your website. What do you do with them? Or how do you contact
Agreed.
them?
And I think one part, which maybe we tack on somewhere in it, is when you have your ecosystem, your digital marketing ecosystem that is geared to drive traffic towards your site, how do you measure it? How do you know what is coming? So analytics are built into Airo AI Builder. And so you can look at your dashboard, but you can also use that to say, all right, in this section or this page, I've had this many visits this week. How do I adapt the page or the content to better serve that audience? So you can close the loop. I mean, everything is data, but I think illustrating how to make that data work to continually develop your site is a critical part of it. And it is all in the same ecosystem. So the benefit is you don't have to go off and look at an Excel report or something else. You can directly go to your control panel, look at the analytics, and then understand which are the hot sections on your site, and then continue or iteratively build to be able to get more out of it.
Yeah.
And so that's I do want to make that point because I think it's super critical as we talk about this. How do you understand what you're driving and then use that as leverage for the next step?